Usually, when we think of long halls, we of course link them to the Viking Age. However, these did not just sprout from the ground, but were rather the result of an evolution both in the Bronze and Iron Age. In fact, some of them might indicate the presence of much older seats of power, even royal seats. The oldest such place might have just been discovered in Norway. In the summer of 2023, archaeological excavations uncovered traces of a massive building in Øvre Eiker near Drammen, which is very close to the capital of Oslo. The structure measured 16 meters in width and was built using advanced construction techniques that would not become widespread until more than 1,000 years later. So far, 21 meters of its length have been excavated, but experts believe the full structure may have been twice as long. Carbon dating indicates that it was built sometime in the 3rd century, so very, very early on, the 3rd century. Now, a building of this size must have played an extraordinary role for the community. Could it also have been a royal hall, an early one? There are indeed a couple of arguments on that account, namely its central location and access to both land and water resources. The remains were discovered in a field at Seam Farm at Øvre Eiker, which is an area very rich in historical artifacts, some of them dating back to the early Bronze Age. There have been previous metal detection surveys carried out by the Museum of Cultural History at the University of Oslo in collaboration with the Buskerud City Council, as well as local detector enthusiasts, and all of this had already hinted at the importance of the site. Strategically positioned along ancient trade routes, the site indicates a long history of commerce and connections with Europe. Evidence also suggests interactions with the Roman Empire. As a matter of fact, in the 19th century, a rare Roman artifact, the so called Suliberg vase, was found in a nearby marsh and it confirmed trade links between the Roman world and people living along the Oslofjord. Until now, we believe that pre Viking Age Scandinavia was divided into various smaller kingdoms, chiefdoms, better said. Most buildings from this period were typically only 5 or 6 meters wide. In contrast, this structure at Seam spans 16 meters, with a remarkable 9-meter distance between its roof bearing pillars, and that would have been an engineering challenge also by modern standards. In fact, it was initially thought that the whole site, the whole building, stemmed from the 16th or 17th century, all the more that a manor was erected on the same site in this period. The building would have been entirely made of wood. The wooden posts, of course, are no longer there, but you can find the holes where they were placed. You can see that the earth is mixed together, so there is a different texture of color. Although the exact appearance of the roof and walls remains uncertain, the layout of the post holes suggests that the building had a steeply sloped roof to withstand heavy winter snow, possibly reaching a ridge height of about 11 or 12 meters. For comparison, think of a classic 4-story flat building, which stands at about 12 or between 12 and 16 meters tall, meaning that the structure at Seam would have been a striking feature in the landscape. So you would have definitely seen it very clearly in the landscape. It was meant to be seen. Now, we do know that the seeds of the Nordic kingdoms would have been planted in the 9th century during the Viking Age, although the process of solidifying true monarchies would take longer. If this structure belonged to a previously unknown Nordic kingdom, it would suggest that a greater political structure might have existed 700 years earlier, potentially alongside the Roman Empire at its height. Further evidence would seem to somehow support the idea of a power center in Scandinavia during the Roman period. Thousands of weapons and pieces of war equipment from this era, originating in Norway and Sweden, have been discovered in Jutland and Funen in Denmark. These artifacts likely belonged to an army attempting to seize control of Western Denmark, and this would imply the existence of a strong and organized leader behind the whole campaign. The larger structure at Seam might have served as his royal seat, perhaps even as part of an earlier effort to unify southern Scandinavia during the Roman period. Maybe it was some sort of charismatic ruler attempting to rule over some kind of sea empire in the Strait of Kattegat, someone looking for expansion. On the other hand, though, the idea of a state is also far fetched because a state involves boundaries, taxes, bureaucracy, and unfortunately, we don't have any evidence of either of them, at least in that period. Generally, this new find both fits and adds a little bit more to what we already know about Scandinavia. Initially, Scandinavian society would have been largely rural, however, levels of organization beyond individual farmsteads also existed. And we do have evidence from sites such as Spring where the remains of a defeated force of about 60 warriors were retrieved, as well as Gudsovik, where large scale fortifications such as the naval barricade were uncovered. And these would suggest military alliances among multiple communities. Over time, political, economic, and sacred landscapes, initially distinct, would have merged together under elite rule. What we can notice in the Roman Iron Age, so that would be until about 400 AD, is an increased militarization as well as elite consolidation and integration within the larger Roman world. Rich burial sites like Himingoye and large military deposits at Illerup indicate growing hierarchies and structured armies. By the end of this period, settlements would have nucleated into villages, class divisions would have become evident, and major political centers like Kudme and Uppåkra would have emerged, hinting at state formation. Later on, during the Germanic Iron Age, so during the time of the migration, luxury goods shifted from bog offerings to elite residences, suggesting new inheritance customs. We have increasing trade, urbanization, as well as centralization, paving the way for larger political entities, possibly emerging in the 6th century. This transformation, culminating in the Viking Age, saw the consolidation of smaller polities into larger political entities, leading to the eventual statehood of the Nordic countries. So, coming back to Övre Eiker, definitely a site of utmost importance with a lot of potential to give us more insight into this early evolution of political power in Scandinavia. Like I said, so far only 21 meters of the building's length have been uncovered. It is likely much longer. We do know during this period that long houses were typically 2 to 3 times their width, and this suggests that significant portions of the structure actually remain hidden. The rest of the building extends beneath a road and into a field on the opposite side, so there is a lot of work to do and still many unanswered questions. In the meantime, you can find out more about the first Roman helmet ever discovered in Denmark, also a recent discovery, as well as about a very interesting burial mound, one of the largest, if not the largest, discovered in Norway. Just follow the links I have for you here. Thank you so much for watching or listening. This was Irina, and till next time.